I was a preschool teacher and I was really needing to find like supplemental work. And I was waitressing and I was babysitting and doing other things.
Oh,
So when I babysit, I often would have my guitar with me and I'd play with the kids. And that sort of turned into people asking, well, would you teach my child guitar? And as time went on, it felt like that could be my supplemental income. People started to tell each other about, parents would spread the word. And by the time I actually left my day job as a preschool teacher,
yeah.
I had, I think, 40 of my own private students weekly.
40?
40.
Rachel, that's incredible. Hello, amazing humans, and welcome to episode number 301 of the Game On Girlfriend podcast. Today, I'm bringing you like the woman next door that you're like, she's amazing. Her name is Rachel Lipson, and she is currently running two businesses. Yeah, she started the first one based on a need. She just needed extra money in order to support her life. She didn't have kids yet. And she kind of let the universe, the signs, whatever your belief system is, she let that sort of guide her. And it turned into an incredibly successful business that does amazing things. I'm not going to ruin it. You're going to have to listen in to find out all the things. And then, as that was running so well, it started to run without her. She started a second business. And in today's episode, I just wanted to be a human with her. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes we hear these incredible stories about people and they're out there doing these things, and you're like, but what do they eat for breakfast? Like, how do they make this happen? Like, could I do that? And I think with Rachel, she's so personable, she's so accessible, and her businesses are so successful that it sort of gives us this moment to just hang out with a girlfriend, grab a cup of coffee, and listen to what life is like when you're running a really successful business that's built off of your own dreams and loves and talents. As an entrepreneur, songwriter, educator, points and miles expert, and avid family traveler, Rachel is the founder and CEO of two companies, Balloon Songwriting for small people. It's a songwriting school for kids, and Brooklyn Family Travelers, which is a platform that's dedicated to helping families travel meaningfully and affordably, mostly using credit card points with the kids in tow. Yes, please. She has been featured dozens of times in various publications, including the New York Times, New York Magazine, the New York Post, Time Out, Forbes, Bloomberg, and Condé Nast. Oh, and Success, and even more than that. She has appeared on many podcasts and panels and has built multiple successful businesses in the fields of music, entrepreneurship, and education. And now she lives in Park Slope, Brooklyn with her husband, her two kids, and a puppy. And while she loves traveling, there's no place like home. I couldn't agree more. Rachel, New York City is always got this little part of our hearts, right? I think you guys are going to really love this conversation with Rachel. If you've had doubts, if you felt like, maybe this real success is for other people, it's for people who have a certain amount of discipline or they're perfect in these different ways. Today's conversation is going to be one you're going to remember because we pull back the curtain on what it really is like on the daily to run successful businesses and still love your life. So without further ado, pop in those earphones and let's get to it. Rachel, welcome to the Game On Girlfriend podcast. I'm looking forward to talking to you today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. So
Yeah.
nice to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. So this is super fun because you were actually introduced to me by a friend. I love when this happens, when someone's like, you guys need to know each other. There's something happening here. It's always the best way to be introduced. So I'm thrilled that we were able to make this work and you can come share your story with all the girlfriends. But
Yeah.
before we jump in, I have to ask. There's clearly a lot of things you could have done on planet Earth with this one precious life that you have. Why are these the two businesses that you have decided to run? Why is this what you're doing right now with your life?
Well, in some ways, I kind of tell people when they ask me, a similar question, I don't know that there's anything else I could be doing. Like
Oh, I love
I
that.
kind of have felt so drawn to the things that I do. They're both of
Mhm.
my businesses came out of real loves that I've had, like real passions. And I felt almost like compelled to do them. Like it would be harder to not do them
Mhm.
than it is to do them.
Yeah.
I didn't stop myself, right? So I've really followed kind of my own path and found that the things that I love to do, I've been able to monetize and been able to find a way to make them my life's work.
Mm.
I feel that's been like a real gift, but it also means that it's a responsibility too, because I really don't know if I could just go get a paycheck from a boss, take a
Mm,
job, be
mm,
doing something I didn't love. I don't even know if I could do that at this point.
I know.
I'm so used to doing what I love and being creative with it and finding ways to grow and build these ideas that I have.
Ugh, I felt that in my bones. I actually have chills right now. That idea of like, could you imagine when you have something pull at you this hard? Could you imagine just, collecting a paycheck or it's so foreign all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. So, can you walk us through what I'd love to know is how you first launched, like the first business, how you first launched, what was that process like? And, when you say you were really compelled to do this, what was the day-to-day experience like for you? What were you doing that it was like, I have to do this now? Like, what did that look like?
For my first business, I was a preschool teacher and I was really needing to find like supplemental work. I wasn't getting paid enough to
Yep.
pay my bills, and I was waitressing and I was babysitting and doing other things.
Oh,
So when I babysit, I often would have my guitar with me because I'd have like a gig after the parents would come home, I'd go out and I'd go to a show and I'd play. And so I'd have my guitar with me and I'd play with the kids. And that sort of turned into people asking, well, would you teach my child guitar? Would you teach him
mm,
ukulele? And I started to teach. And as time went on, it felt like, well, maybe that's something that I could do instead of babysitting. Maybe that's something I could do instead of waitressing. And that could be my supplemental income. And people started to tell each other about, parents would spread the word. And by the time I actually left my day job as a preschool teacher,
yeah.
I had, I think, 40 of my own private students weekly.
Whoa.
I had built this entire gigantic studio of just myself
Oh my
on
God.
top of teaching a full-time job.
40?
40.
Rachel, that's incredible. Wow.
Yeah. So I
40.
I had
Wow.
to make a decision to keep my job or cut back because it was too
Yeah.
much. It
Oh,
was
for
too much.
sure.
And I took the leap and I just said, this is my chance. This is working. It's out, the energy is there. I loved it and people were talking about it and asking me and I loved talking about it. And it just was growing. And so I put in my notice and I remember parents saying to me, you're going to regret this because there's this amazing private school that if you teach there, you'd be more likely to get your kids in. And at that point, I was like, I had a boyfriend who's now my husband, but I had no kids. It was
You're
hard to
like,
think
don't have
that.
those. Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I can keep this job just for these hypothetical children I might have someday that maybe could go to this school.
Mm,
And I left the job and I moved forward and launched the
wow.
business.
Was there anything in that whole process that you look at now and you're like, I wish I'd kind of done that differently? Or if I knew now, nope, if I knew then what I know now, what would you have changed? Is there anything you would have done differently? Or are you really happy with the way it unfolded?
I mean, there's so many things I would have done differently, but
Mm,
I am also happy with how it unfolded. I think I learned a lot from the way that I did things. I mean, I always say to people, like, if I had a degree in business, I probably would not have launched a business. If I knew then what I know now, right? I would probably have been too scared to even take a leap. But one of the things that I think I really struggled with, as most, or I should say many entrepreneurs do, is figuring out how to take some of the things off my plate
mm,
and scale. And so I took on too much all the time and
mm.
had a really hard time bringing on people to help, bringing on, hiring my weaknesses, all those things.
Yeah.
And when I did finally, and I would say the other thing that I did was I had a really hard time kind of putting all of my knowledge, like my knowledge base and all of the information that I had in any systems. So at first,
Yeah.
everything was in my head.
Right. Right.
It took years to get it out of my head, years. And it
Yeah.
took many people
Mm,
as a team to do the work that I was doing just myself. Not because they're not amazing employees, not because they're not incredible. I mean, at their jobs, they're amazing. But what I was doing was like, I had all these shortcuts. They were like mental shortcuts because I had
yep.
memorized this or that. And I had this drive that was basically me doing like a job for three people or
Uh-huh.
more.
Oh my
So
God.
those two things, kind of getting things out of my own head and bringing other people on are things I wish I had done sooner.
Yep. No, I totally get that. I think that is one of the hardest things we all struggle with because it's like we can do it so fast, right? And it's like so just like, what's it got to get it done? I got to get it done. And It really does take something to like pause enough to not only hire someone, describe what they'll be doing, then teach them when you're like, oh my God, I could have done five of these things that need to get done already. It's really challenging for us. I think that yeah, it's a really insightful answer.
Yeah, I think it's really challenging. And I think you have to look at those moments as an investment. So, yes, you can obviously do it faster. As the founder, you can do it faster, usually. But if you're in that situation where then you have to spend your time training somebody, that's an investment
Mm,
in your business and in yourself, where now you've taken something off your plate and you can do more with your time.
yeah.
So it is very worth it.
Yeah, it is, but it's hard. It's
It's hard.
so hard. Yeah. I remember once I was working at a startup. You just reminded me of a side story here. But I was working at a startup and I think I was the second employee hired, and there were now like 8 employees or whatever, but there was so much I was still doing because I just could really,
Mhm.
really fast. And we didn't have a built-in email system yet. Oh my gosh. So there was a group email I had to send out. And normally I would blind copy everybody and I accidentally put everybody in CC and so blind copy.
Oh
And I
no.
hit send and I was like, nah. I had that moment and I got up and I was like, I'm doing nothing today but finding the person who can handle. Like it was like for so long I'd put it off and put it off until I made such a big mistake that it was like, yeah, I'm not doing that again. It's worth it for me to actually sit down and get this done properly. But I'd forgot about that until you said it's such an investment to sit down and be like, yeah, stop running around like crazy and invest the time to get this off your plate. It's so healthy. It's
Yeah.
hard, but so good. Okay, so then how long after you started the music, right, for songwriting for kids, and then how long after that did you move into travel? Like this seems like such a fun business. I feel like both of your businesses are very experiential, like you're really pulling people into these cool experiences and having them see the world maybe in a way they haven't. Does that feel like a common thread to you?
Yeah, I think at first when I started to move forward with the travel company, it felt like a weird departure from what I had been doing, and I was confused. It actually felt very connected to me, but I felt worried that it would look very disconnected on the outside
Hmm.
and worried that it would like negatively impact my first business to have another business. And I was just worried about what that would look like. Like, would this seem like just something totally different? Would it just seem like, oh, I don't care about anything. I'm just like traveling. Like, what would it look like from the outside? And as I kind of got over, and some of that was kind of like imposter syndrome, and some of it was just my own self-doubt and maybe some guilt around becoming a person who had scaled my business to a point where it didn't really need me in the day to day,
Yes.
and what
There
that felt
is
like
guilt
as a
around that.
woman to
Yes.
really own that,
Yep.
to not feel guilty about it and to
Mm,
accept it as something that I could be proud of and
mm.
not have to apologize for, which has always been a real hurdle, a mountain, maybe better to put it for me
Yeah.
through my whole career,
Yeah.
through my whole life. But I would say that eventually I really, as I became more comfortable with it, I realized that there really is this common thread of like building community, of building creativity, of giving children, especially because my travel company is more family focused. Of course, I can help anybody, and I do, but it is very family oriented. And the idea of giving children this opportunity to see the world and giving parents an opportunity to see the world through their kids' eyes and kids an opportunity to see the world through other people's eyes that maybe
Mm.
are outside of their bubble or outside of their day to day
Yeah.
is a real gift. And it is very similar to what songwriting does when you expose kids to it, giving them a chance to express themselves, to experience music in a different way, to experience their identity, reflect on who they are, and see that reflected back at them when they share it with the world. So it's kind of really a lot of the same thing, but from a different lens and
Yeah.
from a different angle.
Yeah, I can get that. I really can't. Like, as soon as I saw both of them, I was like, oh, I can kind of see what you're creating here. But how did the travel company come about? Like, was it the same sort of organic experience?
So the travel company came about in a very kind of specific way. I worked very hard. I should say it didn't just happen. I worked very, very hard to get my company Blue Balloon into the music school, into a place where it could run without me in the day to day. I was very burned out from COVID times and I had done so much and like everybody else and my
Mm,
business had made it through, which was felt like a
A
gigantic
miracle.
example. And
Yeah.
I mean, I was working insane hours and I had been for so
Oh,
many years and I thought I could do it forever. I really thought, but I love this. I could continue to do
mm,
it forever. And then when COVID hit and my kids were home and I needed to do all the things and our house was a mess and we couldn't get food, when couldn't get groceries and we didn't have any like we didn't have any supports, it really made me realize that I couldn't do it forever and I needed to. And I had a team, but I hadn't given them autonomy and I hadn't given them enough responsibility to actually
uh,
take a significant amount of things off my plate. So I was still
mm,
kind of meddling and doing all these things that were like involved. And so I worked really hard to get myself out of that day to day. And it took a long time, but I did it. And once I did, I remember the first trip I took, and it really was around a trip because what I did was I forced myself, I had this trip planned for like a school break. We were taking the kids on our first like vacation, like a real vacation, not just seeing family, but we were going to go take a trip. And I didn't bring my computer. I closed it and I left it at home. And
big
I
deal.
remember my business coach said, leave it at home.
Yes.
Don't tempt yourself, right? Just leave it. And that's what I did. And we had a plan. If the team needed me, they'd reach out to me. And if they couldn't reach me, they'd contact my husband. Like we had a whole plan.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was my business did not fold in the 8 days I was away. It actually was great and it was fine. And I came back and there were a couple of things to handle, but overall they had it down.
Yeah.
And so then I planned another trip. And then I planned another trip. And eventually I was
Oh,
like, if I just travel and with in between with school breaks and all these things, and I am planning trips and doing all this, I'm going to run out of money because this is not sustainable. Like add these expenses. And so I started to kind of look in. So I started doing home swapping, which I really loved. And then I
so
started
good.
looking into like, well, then how do I fly to the places? If I can go anywhere and stay in people's homes, how can I fly there and pay for it? So then I started looking into credit card points and how people do that. And I learned so much. And just the way that I am, I
Mm.
couldn't help once I started learning about it. I was like, then people are asking me about it. I'm spending day after day just answering, fielding like text messages and emails from people who are like, can I pick your brain on this? I'm planning a trip here. I'm doing this. Like, can you help me? Do you have any tips for Paris? Do you have any ideas for this? How can I book a flight on these points? And which credit card should I get? And I'm like,
Wait a
you know,
minute.
people say when you're spending all this time offering free anything, that's a really good indication that might be the next direction you want to go with the business.
I couldn't agree more. That is brilliant. I tell people that all the time. Like, what do people come to you for?
What do
Like,
they come
what
to
are
you
people
for?
constantly asking you about? That is brilliant. I love how you're like, wait a second. I keep getting asked the same questions. That's so much fun. What do you love about now the travel business? Like, what are you enjoying? And are you building it to the same level in that you're starting to hire people and you're starting to turn things over? Like, where is it in your journey?
Well, it's funny because as I was saying to you that, the mistakes that I made and the things I would do differently, I'm making some of the same mistakes right now.
Yeah.
And I know that I am. And it's interesting because one of the things is that I think I knew then that I was making a mistake
Mm,
when I wasn't hiring people. But the reason that I didn't hire people then was because I thought that nobody could do the job that I was doing. I thought that I was the only one that could do it. That if I
yes.
handed the reins to anybody else, the business would fold, that it would be a disaster, that they would never care about it as much as me. That's not how I feel right now. I am very confident that the majority of what I do, I could hand to somebody else. However, I have spent the last 17 years managing people, which is its own joy and
Its own job.
it's its own job. And
Yeah.
the creative part of what I was doing with Blue Balloon started to fade into the background as the years went on. And more of what I was doing was managing people and dealing with kind of the bigger picture stuff, which isn't always that fun and isn't always that creative. Sometimes it can be, but it isn't always. And so, one of the things that I love about Brooklyn Family Travelers is that I am spending, well, one, it's just me. So, I have people that I can bounce ideas off of. I have like collaborators and things like that, but I'm not responsible for managing anybody. And
Mm,
at this point, I'm getting a lot of joy out of that. And
yeah.
just knowing that I don't have to ask anybody to do anything. They don't have expectations of me. I don't, that has
Hmm.
been really nice. But I have partnerships and I have all kinds of different things that I am accountable for. So as those things grow, there's more space there for me to consider whether maybe I need to give up this idea that I would just like do it all myself and bring the people on. But it really is something that I think it's important. It's been important for me to have this experience of doing something again that's just me, where I have an idea and I just sit down and I do it versus having to like even delegating. It's like there's still a level of then like explaining it to somebody and hearing their feedback and
Mm,
wondering if they think it's a good idea and am I asking them to do too much? Like there's all this stuff and this like anxious stuff that comes up that when it's just me, there's other anxious stuff, but it's not that. And I
right.
am really enjoying being able to just like have my business of me right now
Yeah.
and knowing that that's probably not going to last because I just can't help myself to grow it. And it's already getting to this point where like, oh, I don't know if I can really continue on this trajectory of it just being me, but the
Mm,
creative side of it and the knowing that I can really just like plow ahead with whatever it is that I'm interested in, whatever I want to do is very liberating.
I can get that. I can absolutely get that. Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. So, well, but between these two that you're doing all the time, like how are you balancing all of that with littles, right? A littles, a marriage, traveling, two businesses. Like, how do you as a human, inquiring minds want to know, Rachel, but like, how do you as a human actually balance all this for yourself?
I mean, some days I do it better than others. I am not perfect by
Ain't
any
that the
stretch of the
truth?
imagination.
Yeah.
My work-life
Yeah.
balance is, in some ways, I live the dream, right? I have like what I'm doing what I always wished I would be able to do. I'm living the life that I like greater than what I could have ever dreamed for.
Mm. Oh, that's so
And,
beautiful.
and
Dot, dot,
time,
dot.
dot, dot, and but I'm always working. I
Yeah.
don't really, I'm never really off. So, I mean, and any entrepreneur you talk to, I'm sure says somewhat of, well, maybe not everybody, some have figured this out more than me, but most people have the same kind of issue where, yeah, you're not clocking in, but you're also never clocking out.
Right.
And so that is always a challenge. I
Yeah.
think my kids are at a place where they're almost 10 and 12. They're not little anymore. I mean, my older son is like 5'2". I'm tall and he's like almost up there, So they don't have the needs that they had when they were younger, but they still have a lot of needs.
Right.
And the multiple businesses, the travel, planning the travel, kind of the Substack that I have for Brooklyn Family Travelers takes up a ton of my time.
Mm,
I really enjoy it, but it's one of those things where it is a bestseller, which is exciting. And I do have a lot of paid subscribers, but it's not is that really if you were to look at it all on paper, would you be like, if I were coaching somebody, would I necessarily tell them you should put all your time into the Substack? I don't know if I would tell them that, but I put a lot of my time into the Substack because I really enjoy it. So I
right.
have this right now I'm in this like I'm doing the things that I really enjoy with this feeling of I believe that if you lead with your passions and you do the things that you love, and you have this like gift that I've had so far, who knows if it will last, of being able to kind of monetize that. And it's contagious. People feel that and they're excited about it too. And they want to learn more and they want to be a part of it. And so I'm kind of leading with that. So my time is really spent doing the things that I love to do. I'm sort of leaning into things that I love, taking care of the things that I don't really want to do as soon as I can so that those are off my plate, which is a productivity hack that I've always tried to abide by. Just do the things you don't want to do first so that they're not weighing on you and then do the other things
Yep.
and hope that they're not taking up your whole day.
Right.
That's when you know that the balance is really off. And
Mm.
I get to spend a lot of time with my family. Sometimes like the last trip we took, we're like, this is a lot of time. This might be too much time. We're all spending too much time together. Like, they're like, we don't know if we want to go to 4 countries in 2 weeks and
Right.
be with our parents the whole time. Like,
Right.
so the balance is like, it's a lot to plan this stuff. It feels sometimes like all of these things feel like a full-time job. Being a mom
Mm.
feels like a full-time job. Planning the trips feels like a full-time job. When I'm on the trips, I really try to not bring my computer. I mean, that's the thing. The last trip I took, I brought my computer and I was like, ooh, that's a
Don't do
sign.
that again.
And I was like, that's a sign that I'm dipping back into where I was.
Yes.
And
Oh, that's
so,
brilliant.
these are all things that I have to think about and figure out. But the balance is I always come back to like, what do I want to be doing
Mm,
and where do I want to be putting my energy? And it is so much around my family, but then also on like building something that's an investment for the future and for my family's like, financial stability and
mhm.
for to achieve the goals that we want to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So with all of that, first of all, I want to just like pin like kind of highlight. I was like pin this, but no, we're going to highlight this that you figured out what your signs are that you're starting to slip back into like really high functioning or maybe over functioning, that you kind of know what those signals are and that you really listen. I think that's a big deal. I don't think enough people do that.
Mm.
Yeah, I thought that
Yeah,
was really
I think
cool.
that's true. That's where I feel like this is so different from last time. Because last time I did it and it became its own trap where I thought I had to do it or it wouldn't be able to sustain itself. And now it's interesting because I'm like, oh, I'm still doing this, but it's by choice.
Yes.
I could choose to not do it this
Oh,
way.
such
And
a
that's a really big difference. It feels very free.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And what do you do just for you? Is there anything that you have, like any ritual, any morning thing, like your favorite cup of coffee? Is there anything that you do just for you?
Oh my God, that's such a good question. So many of I mean, I write songs, I play guitar,
That's
I love
amazing.
hanging out with my dog.
Right.
I love to read, I love to listen to music. I think I love being home and I love my home and I love making it feel like mine
Mm,
and kind of home design and aesthetics and all that. So I think I spend a lot of time just kind of thinking with like a creative eye about like how I want things to feel and how I want them to look. And and I love being able to have time to like explore different creative channels. So whether it's songwriting or whether it's like rearranging the furniture. I mean, I used to do that when I was like in elementary school. I'd like stay home from school and rearrange the furniture.
the best.
So
Oh.
I just love being able to find ways to be creative and enjoy it. I would say that I don't spend enough time doing any of that
Mm,
stuff anymore.
mm.
And I know that I waste so much time just like scrolling, mindlessly scrolling and spending time on devices. And I
Yeah.
really would love to spend more time reading and writing and doing all the things I really love.
Yeah, that's so interesting you just said that. So again, another acknowledgement for actually saying that. I wish more people were honest about that because it's a tough thing. So two fun things. One, I just started reading again. Not just, but I'd say like the last 9 months. I'm like, oh yeah, novels. Oh my God, it's so much fun. Like
So
it's so
fun.
fun. And then the other is a girlfriend of mine. We were at dinner and she's like, you have got to get Screen Zen. And I'm like, what the heck is Screen Zen? And it's a free app that when it grays out your social media apps, you tell it which ones, you give it a time limit every day, but it grays them out so they're harder to find on your phone. And then when you tap on it, it's like, do you really want to spend your time this way? And I'm like, ah, that's so mean. And then it waits 5 seconds before you're allowed to open it. And then five
Oh my
minutes later, it's like, are you done? I'm like, oh my God. I swear to God, I found like 2.5 hours in every day. I was like, best app ever.
That's
So
amazing.
do with that what you will. But I love that you shared that. I really appreciate the honesty and the vulnerability and sharing that because it's so helpful for other people to hear that we all can like flip. Those things are designed to suck up our attention and our time. That's their job, right? And so it's so easy to fall into using them the way they're designed to be used. But before we wrap up today, Rachel, if someone's listening and they're like, oh my gosh, I want my kid to write songs, or I actually please help me travel with my kids, where can people reach you and where can people find out more about you?
Sure. So for Blue Balloon, the music school, we do in-home private music lessons, mostly in New York City, but in some other cities as well. And we do virtual everywhere. So wherever you are, we can work with your family. We also teach adults, which is one of those things we don't advertise as much, but we love working with. We have a lot of moms, a lot of dads who are
Mm,
like add on their lessons and
me too. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty great. It's a pretty great thing. And
Oh,
sometimes people do
awesome.
it with their kids, which is pretty special too, where they're
Mm,
writing songs with their child. So with that, our website is blueballoonschool.com. We're on Instagram at Blue Balloon School. And for Brooklyn Family Travelers, I'm spending so much time helping families learn how to use credit card points to be able to travel with their families without spending a fortune. And I also offer a lot of tips and strategies around family travel so that families don't feel so overwhelmed and intimidated by the idea of taking their kids on bigger trips or on any trips. So the idea is less, I mean, it really is meeting them where they're at. I don't plan trips. I'm not a travel agent, but it isn't just take your kids to a resort. And if that's what you want to do, great. I can absolutely help people do that. But it's also like, what happens if you take your kids to Budapest? What if you take your kids to Morocco? What if you
Right.
decide you want to do just city trips and do London and Paris? Like, there's so many ways, or go to the countryside. Like, there's so many ways that people can travel. And I try to make it feel more accessible to more people, both in kind of it feeling possible in that way, and then also just financially, that
Yeah.
using credit card points and kind of different tips and strategies around that can make it possible. So with that, I have a Substack, which is Brooklyn Family Travelers, and I have an Instagram, which is BK Family Travelers, and a website. You can find me. I'm online.
You're like, you're going to find me.
If you search any of these things, you will find me. And
I
you can
love
always
it.
DM me or send me a message. And I'm always happy to answer questions, give people credit card advice. It's a big part of what I do is offer strategies around which credit cards make sense to open, which credit cards make sense to keep, to close, to use. These
Mm.
are all things that can make a tremendous difference in terms of how your family travels without having to actually change anything about your spending.
Ugh, I love that. I love that. I think I'm definitely hopping onto that myself. Oh my
And
goodness, there's so much I
free.
want to
I
do with my
offer that
kids.
for free. So
Ah,
that's something
so
that
good.
people can reach out to me anytime about.
Love it. Love it. Oh my God. Rachel, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I really appreciate it. I loved hearing your story. I loved learning more about how you did this. I know there's so many people who are like, can you really do this? And so I love sharing stories when people are like, yeah, you can really do this. And so thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun. It was so nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
You bet. All right. For all of you watching on YouTube, all of the links that Rachel just mentioned will be underneath this video. For those of you listening in, check out all the links in the show notes, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.